by IEEE. Okay, so first level was the physical device level. Second is the connectivity, that is where you kind of decide on how the connections from the edge devices to the edge computing layer happen. Safe, reliable, secure communication is what we are talking about here. Okay, and the after the third layer, you have higher level layers, which are from layer 4 to 7, where a lot of the manipulation of data happens. So layers 4 to 7 are mostly data centric type of layers, and that is why we are putting all of them together into one slot. All right. So am I audible to you? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now what we have is the layer 4, where you can see we are moving from the lower levels to the higher level, because that is the direction in which the data will flow. If you remember, there are two directions. Control signals will flow from the top level to the bottom, and the data will flow from the bottom to the top. This data is being collected by the edge devices, and they will move upwards, and as they move upwards, you convert data into information, so that at the final level, that is at the top level, you get only the relevant information that is required to you, not the raw data. Okay, so in the layer 4, we get the after the fog computing or the edge computing level, we use this data into, we convert this data into uh, kind of query based processing system, or query based processing framework, where you actually are looking at using storage, right? Like for example, you are creating databases here, where the data is getting stored and extracted as and when the requirements happen. Okay, and the layer 5, okay, one thing, have you gone through the IoT, not IoT, the computer networks course? Where have you reached in that? What things have you studied so far?
Sir, till now we have studied three protocols.
Studied so far?
Three protocols, sir. TCP.
Okay, so did you study about the different layers in the protocol? Hello?
No, sir.
Okay, so Emily, they'll be telling you what are the layers in which this protocol is kind of constructed and all those things that you have not studied. Okay, anyway, but please, so anyway, let's get on with this. So you can logically divide them into these layers. Okay, so layer 4 is where you have the databases sitting, which are used for picking the data and using the data as and when required. Level 5 or layer 5 is actually something which is more uh, abstraction. Data abstraction is something that is very important for IoT, because when it comes to the end user perspective, you do not need to know the raw details of the data. You just want to know what is the uh, you just need to know what has to be done, right? If you want to turn off a light bulb, you don't need to know what is the voltage, what is the current. You just need to know that it should be turned off or on. So you do not need to know which microcontroller is controlling it, or what is the voltage into the pin that is being given to actuate which relay. All those things are immaterial to you. So all those things need to be abstracted from you, right? So in these cases, what they do is, in the data abstraction layer, you um, try to integrate uh, all the kind of information which is coming from all different data types, and then they try to kind of put them in a form that is understandable, and you integrate all the data together and remove all the unnecessary information content in the data, and just show only what is kind of required, right? So that is the idea of data abstraction. Abstraction by itself means that you hide the data. If you have studied C, C++, you must have studied these things, right? Data encapsulation, data abstraction. So something similar to this. Okay, so you do not need to know what exactly is happening inside. Okay, and the sixth layer that you have is the applications layer, where you use the data that has been extracted in the previous layers and put it in the form of an application. So this is where you design your app. Okay, so if you are having a Philips Hue, there will be an app along with it. Correct? So this is where the actual application and the internals of the apps are actually sitting there. Okay, and the seventh layer that you have is the biggest one, which is the topmost layer, where you are actually interacting with the user, typically a human being or maybe a business kind of enterprise. So wherever the human beings or such non-technical things are involved, that is where you have that is what you call a collaboration or the process layer. So this could actually be, if you're using an app itself, it could be the GUI that you're developing for the app, because it's the graphical user interface or GUI with which you are actually going to interact. No, so that is the idea. Fine. So any questions?
No, sir.
So we go to the next, which is the alternate architectures for IoT. So you can have, we have seen two major IoT architectures. There are others also, because the thing is that there is no standardization of any of these architectures. Everybody has kind of jumped into it to create their own standards. Out of this, the three other IoT standards, reference standards that have come up are one by Purdue, so it's like Purdue, and the second one that you have is the Internet of Things architecture. It's called IoTA. Okay, so don't get confused by the name. We are looking at the IoT architectures, but there is a separate set of architecture which is referred to as IoTA. Okay, this is actually a project which was funded by European Union, okay, and European Commission. They invested a lot of money into this to come up with a set of architectures. So that is what you're seeing, IoTA. It's not the generic architecture we are talking about. It's a specific kind of architecture, just like the 1M, 2M, and the IEEE IoT standard. Okay, so this is a third category. It's called as IoTA. Not very popular, did not take off much. But the thing that you're seeing here, Industrial Internet Consortium, IIC, these are the people who are pushing the industrial IoT in a big way. So a lot of work on industrial IoT is being done with the help of Industrial Internet Consortium. So if you are kind of planning to go into the field of industrial communication or industries, basically what your manufacturing industry or plants basically work on, then I think you should be seriously looking at the IIC architectures. But industrial IoT is not something that we are going to learn in this semester, so I'll just leave it at that. If you are interested, please have a look at that IIC. Companies like National Instruments and such, actually National Instruments is doing a lot of work in developing IIoT based systems. So if you go to their website, you will find a lot of stuff on what NI is doing. You know what is National Instruments, right? You've heard of NI?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so NI actually does a lot of work on this. They are into other industrial communication also, but this is something that they are kind of putting a lot of effort into. This is going to be very popular in the near future. People are already adopting it. So industrial IoT is something which can take off very fast. So if you're interested, you can have a look at that. So these are some other architectures that we have. And now what we are going to do next is we are going to just have a look at, before we start, is this okay? Are you okay with the 7-layer reference architecture that we have seen so far?
Yes,
Please yeah, if anybody has any queries, please go ahead and ask, because now what we are going to do is we are going to just look at the functional aspects of each of those layers. So theory is up to this. Now we will see some technical details on this. So please let me know if you have any queries on any of the layers that you have seen so far. These are the 7 layers you're seeing on the left hand side. Anyone? Any questions?
No, sir.
Fine. So let's go to the functional stack. So the first layer obviously is the things layer. Okay, and you classify the things in the IoT, Internet of Things, right? So what are the things that we are talking about in case of Internet of Things? These are the devices which are sitting on the edge. That is, these are the devices which we are using to interact with the environment. Okay, so you could have devices which are connected to temperature sensors for measuring temperature. You could have these microcontrollers which are connected to cameras to detect motion, all those kind of things. Okay, so these are called edge devices or the things layer. These are where the things are actually. Okay, and how do you classify these things? So devices that are sitting at this layer can have multiple types of classifications. Okay. So first classification could be if they are battery powered or connected to the mains power supply. So if your devices are located in remote location, for example, you are creating an automated weather station, then there are a lot of automated weather stations now in deployment across the world. So what they do is they will trek all the way to some mountain top or somewhere, and then they will set up this automated system there, and then they come back. So there they will be having this microcontroller, they will be having this transmitter, they'll be having this receiver, all kinds of sensors built into one single box, and the parameters of the weather are automatically detected and transmitted maybe to the cloud. And the powering system is typically a battery, because you cannot draw mains power lines all the way there. So they may have some kind of a solar panel, and they may have a battery and all those things to make it work. So you have one option where in remote locations you use battery powered systems, or you may have devices which are connected to the mains power supply. The one such example could be the surveillance cameras that you have. Okay, typical surveillance cameras will have a processing unit also. So sometimes it is integrated into the camera, sometimes it is a separate unit which is sitting just outside the camera. So now because of miniaturization, you will find the camera and the processing module inside it itself. So, but the thing is that they need to be powered through a mains power supply. So 230 volts plug has to be given. They will be connected and they will be always powered through that. So these are the two ways in which you basically power the devices. Another classification could be what is the status of the device. Are they supposed to stay in one location or are they supposed to move about? Example again, that of the weather station. So if you have an automated weather station, the weather station is going to sit in the same place on that mountain top forever. So it's going to be a stationary or a static type of a thing or a static device. On the other hand, if you are having a car which is connected, for example, your MG, they advertise the MG Hector as a connected car, right? So it's basically using IoT. So if you are having an MG Hector, or I don't know the other device, other cars, how they work, but if you're having an MG car, you have bought it, so it will be a kind of always moving about. So in that case, it's going to be a mobile device. And technically speaking, we call it a mobile device whenever you have systems which are moving from uh, one network to the next at all times. For example, if you are sitting here in the same, say you're sitting in your home and you are on Wi-Fi from your home, right? So it does not matter if you're moving around within the house, you are still static because you're using the same Wi-Fi, right? But what happens is if you're moving from one Wi-Fi network to the next Wi-Fi network, you can be considered to be a mobile device. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that is one way of talking about mobile. And second way of looking at how a mobile system is mobile or static is by looking at the physical location of the device. For example, if you have a car or something, you see that their physical location keeps on varying, but they may be connected to the same network. So for example, in case of MG, you have a M2M SIM which is put inside the car, which is connected to the Airtel 4G network. So at any given point of time, you are at the same Airtel network, but your tower location will be continuously changing as the vehicle moves. Right. So in that case also you have a mobile agent. Right. So that is how we talk about as mobile or static type agents. The third classification you have is of how much data rate do you want from the system. Okay. What I mean by that is what is the kind of information you are collecting from the agent or the sense or basically the thing or the device that is connected on the edge. For example, again same example I will take. Imagine you have the weather station remotely located and you have the microcontroller, which is the thing which is controlling the whole system. But because it is weather monitoring, you do not need to have data continuously being transmitted. Right? If the data transmission frequency can be like, say, you may be sending one set of parameters like temperature, pressure, rain, etc. once every 5 minutes or once every 10 minutes. So the frequency of data transmission is very low. Because you don't need to do that, right? Why do you need to continuously or send second by second information on how much wind is blowing or how much rainfall is coming? You can wait for some time, collect the data, average it out, and then send it off. Because weather patterns don't change instantaneously, no? So the frequency of data could be lower. But there are other cases where you may need very high reporting frequencies. Like for example, you have a surveillance camera which is sitting on a major traffic junction in Coimbatore. Right, so the surveillance camera is actually an IoT device, and you need to transmit the data at much faster rates. At least 20 frames per second data has to be transmitted so that you are able to capture all the movements that are happening in the frame. Right, so reporting frequency in that case is much higher. So based on the application that you can have lower reporting frequency or higher reporting frequency. The typical rule of thumb is that you try to minimize the reporting frequency as much as possible. Because when you're talking about reporting frequency, you are talking about transmitting data. And data transmission typically is a resource intensive process, is an energy intensive process. So if you have a plugged in device to the mains, that is not an issue for you. But if you are running on battery, every single milliwatt that is being used up counts, because you want to minimize the power loss and you want to minimize the energy consumption of the thing that is being kind of looked at right now. So you need to minimize the data flow and you need to minimize the data transmission as much as possible. So in that sense, you should try to minimize the reporting frequency if you are using a battery powered IoT device. Okay. So again, that is a part of the design process when you try to kind of architect a system to be deployed in the field. So that is the importance of reporting frequencies. Okay, does it make sense? Any questions?
Sir,
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
sir, if my physical location is static, but I'm changing network, will it be static or mobile?
Your physical location is
Static, but the device is changing its network.
mobile. For all intents and purposes, you are switching networks, no? So if you're looking at it from the network level, it is a mobile agent. Hello?
Okay.
Yes. Something happened. Am I audible? Some network issue has cropped up again. Can you people hear me?
There's a lot of background noise.
Yeah, I also feel that something is not correct. Anyway, I think we'll have to bear with this for today. The college, I'm in the campus now, but I don't know what is going on. Anyway, so Any other questions?
Given I of 0 is 10 amps. So how you could proceed? Find I of t. Find I of t given I of 0 is 10 amps.
No.
Okay, so the next thing that we have to talk about is what kind of data you are sending. Okay, so you are sending simple data or you are sending rich data. By rich data we mean different kinds of data patterns are involved. Like you're sending text, you're sending images, you're sending video, you're sending audio. So all those things are called rich data, heterogeneous type of data. Okay, simple data is when you are actually sending one type of data, typically something which is not involving audio or video. So for example, temperature measurement is happening, so you're sending the temperature data continuously. That is simple data. Very simple, very easy to transmit, very simple to receive, not very intensive, so easier to process also. So in that way, simple data is, that is what we are talking about. In case of rich data, have a lot more complexity in the data transmission rates have to be decided. Say you're transmitting image or something like that, you need much more bandwidth, right? So all those things will come into picture when we are talking about rich data. But now, because the networks have become improved, we have a lot more advantages, and we are now able to transmit rich data with a much higher frequency, and we are able to do a lot more analysis as a result of this. But again, as I said, if you are transmitting rich data, you again have issues of usage of battery, power resources, so other problems will also come. Okay. The next classification that you have is based on the reporting range. That is, what is the transmission range that you are talking about here? When we talk about transmission range, I am talking about transmission to the central kind of a server, maybe on the cloud or somewhere else. Not cloud, actually to the central location where we are actually doing all the processing, or where you are actually doing the interface with the application. Right, so where the user is and where the sensor devices are. Because cloud is always everywhere, but the end user may be at some physical location. So that typically kind of decides on what the reporting range is. If you take the same example of a weather station, the reporting range could be hundreds of kilometers, because the weather monitoring center could be in the capital city of a state, and the sensor could be located 400 kilometers away on some mountain top. So that reporting range is about 400 kilometers, right? Or you could have your mobile phone, which is, and you're trying to find out what is the direction of a particular place. So your compass is measuring the distance and telling you the direction on your phone. So in that case, the reporting distance is like what, 50 centimeters or 100 centimeters. So that's what we are talking about here. Okay. And the last one is the object density per cell. So how much dense is the distribution of objects in a particular location? Cell location is what we are talking about here. So it's the more the density is, the more is the resource constraints as far as networking bandwidth is concerned. So there you will have issues with scaling up. Okay. So that is the idea of that are the kind of classification of devices based on this. So one example, if you look at this, so the diagram is kind of self-explanatory. You can see what we mean by mobility and the data rate that we were talking about earlier. Throughput is actually the data rate, right? So that's what we're talking about here. Please have a look at this and see what we are discussing. See if it makes sense to you. If it does not make sense to you, just let me know.
It is nothing but 1 by 1 by 3. No, it is 1 by 3 only, right? Only 1 by 3. 1 by 3 by 1. It is voltage per current. So 1 by 3 by 1. So it is 1 by 3. So what should be your tau?
Any questions?
No, sir.
1.5.
I hope all of you are able to understand this.
L by R.
Throughput is the data rate. Okay, don't get confused.
So have you found tau?
Mobility is how the sensors are moving or how the edge devices are moving. So you can see here low mobility, low throughput. That means you require the devices are mostly static and they don't use much data also. So same thing you can see the industrial devices located in one place, obviously weather sensors, and they're giving data output also at very low like very high intervals of time. So data rate is very low. Okay.
Minus t by tau. So what will be the expression? What will be the expression? 10 e power minus t by 1.5.
So if there are no further questions, we'll move on to the next one. Next layer is the communication networks layer. Okay.
Shall I go to the next problem?
So this is what we have. There are 4 parts of the IoT communication network layer. This is the second layer that we have. So in this, what happens is that you have 4 major sublayers.
How do we solve this?
One is the access network. Here actually we are using whatever wireless technology you are using for the purpose. These are all IEEE standards. IEEE 802.11h, 802.15.4g and LoRa's. You could also have wired technologies. No problems, okay. So this is the first layer. The second layer is the backhaul, that is when you have multiple objects all connected to the backend, and the backend is transmitting huge amounts of data in one shot. Okay, so that is called the backhaul layers, and they are kind of transmitted to the central station where all the processing actually happens. So this is something like you have the 4G network, which is the front end, and you could have backend through fiber optic. So because they can handle huge amounts of bandwidth, so fiber optics are used as the backhaul kind of communication systems. So that is the second level. The third one is the network transport sublayer, where you implement protocols like Internet Protocol and UDP. Okay, so I think you may be studying all of this in this semester. So this is what happens during the network transport part. And then you have the network management sublayer, where you have protocols which allow it to which allow the devices to exchange data with each other and to transmit to the cloud. So the 2 major protocols that you will come across very frequently is COAP and MQTT. We will be studying COAP and MQTT, even if it is not there in the syllabus. I don't know, it's not specifically mentioned, but I will definitely be handling this, and I will be telling you what these things are, because MQTT is kind of the most popular communication protocol for IoT communications. So we will try to do some coding where you will be actually writing data to the cloud using MQTT. It's mostly abstracted from you, but underlying protocol will be usually MQTT. Okay, so we will see in detail what those things are and how it works. So I think I will stop with this for now, and we will continue with this in the next class. Okay, so let's see what can be done. So far, if you have any queries, please go ahead and ask. Already too much information for one class, I guess. So I'm taking it a little slowly because you may have difficulty understanding this. This is I think you're learning only in this semester networking and all those things. So I can't go very fast. Okay, so if you have any queries, please go ahead and ask. Any questions? Okay, so I'm assuming there are no further questions. So we will stop the class with this. Were you able to access the first presentation? Have you gone through that? Is it readable? Do you have any issues with that?
No issues, sir.
Okay. So I think we will stop with this for today. We'll continue in the next class. So next session is going to be the doubt clearing session. So if you have any queries, I'll be happy to answer. And I think we have lab in the afternoon. we'll try to do some simple experiments using Raspberry Pi. I'll walk you through what has to be done, and we'll meet in the lab. So let's see. Okay, thank you all for attending. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.